Thank you very much, Derek, for this opportunity. I'll have to speed through this because I know you're all desperate to get to drinks. We have been through an awful drought, and the millennium drought is a once-in-a-generational drought. During that process, we saw a lot of political opportunity, and now we face a lot of consequences for changes in water management that does not just affect irrigators. It also affects a lot of community, business people and riparian landowners. So I'll just flick through. We've all seen drought, signs of drought. As I said, we saw a lot of political opportunities during the drought. I did a lot of research on cause and effect. What is the cause of the political problem that we face? I looked behind it. I spent 3 months solid doing research, prepared a fairly extensive document, put it in pictorial form. I'm bogged down in submissions and all sorts of things to get to this point. But what I did sort out was fact from fiction and what level of politics was involved. This is a figure. 58% of flows actually remain in the environment. Irrigation is extracting, 42% is extracted, and irrigators extract 90% of the 42%, not 90% of water. Reform fatigue, and I think if you look at the 2002 Living Murray program, it said the scientific reference panel 1,500 gigalitres with infrastructure would deliver a healthy working river. But the goalposts move, as you all know. In terms of the basin plan, water recovery is 2,750 gigalitres, so that's just under the size of the Hume Dam, which is 3,038 gigalitres. So we're talking about a lot of water. Of that, the majority, 2,289, is coming from the southern basin, and of that, 2,000 gigs has to go down to the lower lakes over the barrages on a 3-year rolling average. So what do we know about this system? After the Federation drought, sorry, where's the pointer? No, sorry, we don't have a pointer. But during the Federation drought, this system, Lake Alexandrina, was converted. The plans were first converted to turn it into a freshwater storage system. On environmental grounds today, that would not occur. So we have a lot of myths out there. So if we look back at the Coorong, what is the cause of environmental decline in the Coorong? Well, but from 1863 to 1974, at the bottom there on the right-hand side of the screen, the natural flows to the Coorong was interrupted over implementation of successive drainage schemes, which redirected the natural flows from the Coorong directly out to sea. So when we talk about decline of health in the Coorong, is it a problem of upstream states, or is it a problem from drainage schemes that took all the fresh water away from the Coorong? And will the Basin Plan deliver solutions? The other aspect is when the barrages were finally put in place in 1939, if you add up, look at those red lines at the bottom of the screen, like the 5 fingers of the estuary, that adds up to 7.6 kilometres of concrete infrastructure. And when the barrages went in 1939, it lost 90% of the tidal prism that used to function as part of a normal estuary. So we now have a situation in 2012 where we're going to try and use fresh water to try and continue to scour out the sedimentation of the Murray Mouth. There's the Goolwa Barrage, and that's quite an archaic system. It's operated by a man and a crane and a concrete block. We've got seawater on the right-hand side, fresh water on the left-hand side. And under the Basin Plan, we also have to have a new salinity measurement point on the left-hand side in the freshwater that really is going to be unachievable in terms of if we don't have localised infrastructure solutions at the end of the system. Interesting, when the Federation drought was on and this system was first talked about turning from an estuary into a lake, we had some reports that actually said if you put a construction of a infrastructure in a tidal compartment of an estuary, you will get sedimentation. I call them wise old gentlemen because all these years that's exactly what happened. So if we look at the barrages early 1940s, before sedimentation, and if you look at that arrow, you will see there's not a permanent sandbar. 9 years after the barrages were completed in 1939, you'll see the starting of sedimentation or shoaling, just as those wise old gentlemen said. And if you look at that little ring, there's the start of vegetation colonising a sandbar. 1966, it has colonised and it's a growing blockage right in front of the Murray mouth. Big floods, 1973, it didn't scour it. 1981, the mouth did close. What you're not told in that period, it was a period of unusually calm seas and the barrage gates were closed and not releasing water into the estuary. So you've got a combination of effects, loss of 90% of the tidal prison, plus you had this unusually calm seas. That photo's held up as the iconic symbol of over-allocation of the water resources. So I'll just keep going through that. Now, how natural is the environment, and are Murray River flows, increased Murray River flows under the Basin Plan, the only answer? I say that it's not, and I'm not the only one saying it. So I'll just slip through these and you can make your own impressions. That is Goolwa on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side you'll see the Murray mouth. The lake is kept at 0.75 metres above sea level, and so the operating protocols of the barrages also are designed around keeping that lake at 0.75 metres above sea level. Now, this plan isn't just about irrigators, it's also about riparian landholders. The Basin Plan will mean that the Murray River will be run at bank full or over bank flows. Murrumbidgee, bank full and over bank flows, etc, etc. So what are the risks if we don't get a good government process going forward? Property access may be an issue, but that could be resolved, for example, with a bridge. Flooding risks are real, they've already happened, and they will happen again. So how will people be treated, and what do you need to know if you live in the Murrumbidgee, the Murray, or any other system that will be affected by these decisions? Constraints, 6 years of warning. I can't tell you the amount of submissions, letters, meetings, etc. that I've attended. The predictions that we made came to fruition already. So as we move forward into this next phase, people need to be aware of their rights and make sure you are fully informed if this is going to affect you. So, for example, with the start of the Basin Plan, this is the Barmer Choke. It was running at about 8,000, that's capacity there, 8,000 megs. You can see the size of the banks. The MDBA originally wanted 77,000 megs. So 6 years of arguing to bring this, ideological approach to environmental flows. Nobody's against environmental flows, but they have to be safe, realistic and practical. Personal touch. In 2010, the warnings that we said of how the system operated, first big crop after the drought, we lost the lot. Why? Because environmental flows were put down during harvest, our property was cut in half, and consequently, when the time we got a header across, we had 5 days of rain, lost the lot. Huge economic loss, we weren't alone. Personal touch again, 2016. October, catastrophic flood. Why is this important? Yes, this wasn't environmental flows, this was a natural flood, but made by a new Murray Darling Basin Authority that would not listen to local warnings. Nearly drowned 2,000 sheep. The community spirit in farming is fabulous because they were the people that protected us.
Louise, can you just go back 2 slides to the one with the kangaroos under the tree and just explain the situation, because that may not be evident to...
Sorry, my apologies. Thousands upon thousands of kangaroos died, and they died of hypothermia because they simply had nowhere to go. And so they just stood there. By rights, we should have gone up and shot them, but at that stage, it took us 4 hours to get to the front gate on our property. So the question is, we're spending $13 billion of taxpayers' funds on a basin plan that was developed with political opportunity during a millennium drought or through that period. So the question is, have we got it right? Now, politics will mean that we can't perhaps change the numbers, but surely at this level we can get the implementation decisions right. And at this point, that is still a big, big struggle. So we need local solutions at the Coorong Lower Lakes Murray Mouth, because no matter how much water we send down the system, if the cause and effect is not properly understood, it's not going to make any difference. The Coorong will still be hypersaline in the southern end of the Coorong. The Murray Mouth will still sediment up. And actually, I'll just go back to this. This is a very good example of what I've been saying for 6 years. Just adding water to scour out the Murray Mouth is not the solution. This flood was 200,000 megs under the Tokemore Bridge below, so 2 hours west of Albury. That floodwater got to South Australian border in December. It equated to about 94,000 megs, 75,000 megs over the barrages. 3 weeks later, they were required to dredge the Murray Mouth, which proves beyond all doubt, no matter how much flood you put down, it is not going to be an efficient, sustainable solution to use just add water philosophy to scour out the Murray Mouth. Catastrophic flooding was immense, and how somebody wasn't killed, it's a matter of time, because if it happens again, where local knowledge is ignored, and I think you all know, you've all experienced how farming knowledge is not valued until it is too late. So I've tried to be as quick as possible because I know you've all got to go and I'm under a tight time frame. Many of you have heard me say, and others say over years and years and years, governments, we can work with you, we can form partnerships with you, but please listen to our knowledge. Because I believe that with an NRM policy, it doesn't matter whether it's fire, threatened species, whatever. If governments find an opportunity to work with us constructively, we can help them and they can work with us and we can get a far better outcome. But what we're doing under this basin plan is that we have a dominant, ideologically driven plan that prioritises the environment first. We have an MDBA, Murray Darling Basin Authority, without the necessary experience. When it started off with the basin plan, it is still driven by ideology and they are not listening. And I hope that if you are impacted by any of these proposed decisions, that you continue to work with people that perhaps can share information and knowledge, and we can try to get some better decisions in the implementation phase. Thank you.